Okay, good morning. This is Mark, and I'm coming to you from Baker's Green Acres, and I have something to communicate today. I think we keep this channel open because we like to share information that's good for people. I mean, it's good for humanity. The homesteading thing is a great thing. People creating their own food, people living free and doing what they want to do. So we keep it open, and a lot of times I'm sharing stuff that I do here, and I'm really fortunate that I'm retired from the military, and I have the wherewithal to do all these things that I do, and I've been blessed with a healthy body and a healthy mind, and I'm really appreciate that. And as time has gone by, this is 15 years since I retired from the Air Force, we've made a whole lot of friends. We have a serious network. This particular web page, the Baker's Green Acres web page, has 33,000 followers. 33,000. And all we're doing is sharing tips on, how to garden and how to raise chickens and how to raise cows and how to milk cows and then the things that we make and the things that we do. Well, this is going to be a little bit different because I got to share something with you all that I saw that happened this week, and it had a profound effect on me, and I think it should be told, and so it's going to take a little bit of time. So, and I may ask you to share this around a little bit if you could, if it comes out good. I don't know. Sometimes my stuff gets shared pretty good, sometimes it doesn't, but here goes. Last Tuesday, and this is off the cuff, I don't have any notes or anything. Last Tuesday, I got a phone call from a young female and started to tell me a story. Said she needed help, she was a follower, needed to tell me something, and she got about 30 seconds into it and started to cry and said, "I'm going to have to call you back." Said, okay, but that really touched me. Somebody was that upset about something and they were reaching out to me. So a little while later, I got a phone call back, and she had composed herself, and she related to me a story that was happening to them. They had, she's about, I reckon about 28 years old, and her husband is about the same, maybe a little older. He has a full-time job. He's a machinist, and they live in Muskegon. That's a town here in Michigan, down in southern Michigan, a little bit south. And they live in the township of Dalton, right? Remember that name. So she had been asked to report down to the township office, and being a young person, if she was asked to do something, she did it, and she reported down there. She was put in a room, and she was hammered by 3 people from the township office who claimed that she was doing things that were illegal and that she could no longer do, and she had to stop this. Now let me tell you what she was doing. She was doing what I do, right? She was raising chickens. Her and her husband, they have a small 18-acre farm. Chickens, they have maybe 15 pigs. They do a lot of row crops. They have chickens out on pasture the way we do. I mean, she follows some of the same people that I do for these techniques. I think she follows me, probably. That's why she reached out to me. And so then I said, well, if you need to, do you want to come up and tell me the whole story? And she was getting emotional again. She said yes. So her and her husband came up Tuesday night. And they got here probably 8 o'clock, and they were here until about 10. And, I checked them out, and their stories seemed very good. I had a lot of young people work for me in my days in the military, and I can assess people pretty well. And the story that they told me was kind of rough for me to take as an American, a freedom-loving, constitutional-loving American citizen. But they were pretty much told that they were going to have to cease and desist what they were doing because their neighbor, who seems to be a pretty wealthy guy, had gone to the township and said that he didn't want to live next to a farm. So their farm has been running for 5 years, and there's never been a complaint, not one complaint. There's not been one animal cross the fence, not one incident, but all of a sudden he decided that's what he was going to do. I can see someone doing that. But what I couldn't understand was the people at the township. First of all, full-time employees at the township, what's that? What are you doing down there that so requires you to be there full-time? I really have a question about that. But then the township seemed to stalk her and, watch what they were doing, and then made written testimony that I read that said that the animals were running wild and all this stuff. So yesterday I drove down there. My wife and I drove down because we needed to see this with our own eyes. And what I saw when I pulled in the driveway impressed me. And I'm not really easily impressed when it comes to farms. But I drove down their driveway towards their house, a very nice, neat house. On both sides of the driveway, I saw chicken tractors, very nicely built and maintained, with very healthy chickens in them, on both sides of the driveway. And then flower beds that were straight. They were square to the driveway, which is a big thing for me as a military. Everything's got to be square, right? Very, very neat. Signage for parking. The barn was really cute, nice blue barn that had a lot of nice woodwork on it. I mean, these people are craftspeople, and the place was sharp. I really got a great feeling when I went on. And then when I was there, several people showed up who were customers of theirs that buy chicken from them, that buy eggs from them, that buy pork from them. They milk a herd of goats, and they buy milk from them. They buy produce from them. They buy cut flowers from them. But this neighbor doesn't like that. He doesn't like the people coming and going, which I can see that. I can see that. You have the right to not like things. But this person also has the right to conduct their business that's guaranteed under the Fifth Amendment. But we'll get to that. So a little bit closer observation, and I find out that these people have gone through the steps of becoming what's called MEAP certified. And that's a certification that the state of Michigan puts out. My buddies at the Department of Ag put out, that certifies that you're doing things that are in compliance with generally accepted farming practices. And they send somebody out from Lansing that's a real smart person. They say, yeah, you're doing things right. They give you a sign to put out in front of your house that say this is being done right. And once that happens, you are good to go as far as the Right to Farm Act, which is a law. Okay, Right to Farm Act is signed into law by our governor, right? It's been around for quite a while. And it does supersede any ordinances that some township comes up with. So she's covered, or they are covered. But what I saw really disturbed me, that here's some young people that are not doing bad things. They're actually farming. They're actually creating food. They're contributing to their society, their neighborhood, the people that are depending on them for food, and doing a really good job, doing it neatly, and their animals are well taken care of. I didn't see anything wrong on that property. And usually, I'm an experienced farmer. I can pick things out that you should do this a little bit better, but I didn't have much to say. It was really impressive. So much so that when I was doing my work this morning, I felt like, boy, I need to catch up. I found that I became motivated to do a better job, to take my farm operation to the next level. You know, I was really, I can't think of the word right now anyway, but I was, they moved me, you know. We teach a lot of people farming skills, a lot of people. And a lot of times when I go and I see what they're doing, you know, I see it at different stages. But when I saw this, I thought, wow, they have really focused in on doing a good job. And I was very, very impressed. My complaint really is with the township. As you know, people who work as public servants, I know they like to be called public officials, but they are public servants. They take an oath to protect and defend the constitutional rights of the people that they serve. And the people at the township office should have politely said, I'm sorry, but these people have the right to do this. That's guaranteed to them not only by the Right to Farm Act, it's guaranteed to them by the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. And if anything is repugnant to that Constitution, it is null and void. And as an American citizen, you are not required to comply with that. As a matter of fact, you're doing a disservice to the Constitution if you comply with something that is repugnant to the Constitution. You have a duty as an American citizen to not comply. And not only that, you have a duty to track down the public servant who is out of line and fire them from their job. Because when they take that oath to protect and defend your constitutional rights, it is actually a term of employment to work for the township. So the people of that township are saying, not only do you have to swear an oath to this document, you have to sign that oath, right? So this person, and I'm not going to use the name now, I don't think we'll need to do that. I'm just trying to get some of this out and see if more people can feel the injustice here, and just I just had a really bad feeling about it. But I'll tell you, when I was there yesterday, there were no less than 6 people that showed up at different times, and they introduced themselves and they said, how can we help? And they came right into this home and sat right at the kitchen table and said, what can I do? Started pouring through paperwork and pointing things out. And it warmed me to see people who just identified an injustice. Really, it's tyrannical is what it is. The servants are looking out for the best interests of connected people. Okay, so I went through 3 different complaints on their table. One was from the neighbor, one was from the township that is suing them to stop what they're doing. In effect, to stop making a living. This is what they do to feed themselves. They don't have any children. And I thought about the person who spearheaded this at the township, and I know her name. Right? I know a lot about her, actually, and I might have to share that with you. And I think that public servants, they are out there in the open. They are not private in what they're doing. What they're doing is public. And if they're doing something wrong, they need to be held accountable by you, right? And so what I saw yesterday was a lot of people come to the aid of these people. And one of the stacks of paperwork from the court was they're trying to file an injunction against them so that they can't sell plants this weekend out of their greenhouse. You know, it's Mother's Day this weekend, and so people like to buy plants and give them to their moms. But the township, Dalton Township, is trying to stop them from doing that. For no really good reason. They're saying it's creating hardship for their neighbor. So how does that work? Like, if I go to the township and I say my neighbor's, the color of his house is creating me hardship, would the township then use the county lawyer to stop that from happening? And if they did, would that be correct? I think the Fifth Amendment's pretty clear. It says that we have we have the right to life, liberty, we're free, and property. Property is our process, what we do. We have the right to that, and it's guaranteed under due process of law. Not some stinking ordinance that somebody at a township pulled out of their back pocket, you know. We have law, and then we have ordinances. If the ordinances are repugnant to the law, you're under no obligation to follow them. As a matter of fact, city council should thwart those things at every turn. They should. They don't. I mean, you know, we're a growing society, and things aren't always done right. I lived through it, and I know what it's like to be the target of a bunch of people, bureaucrats really, people who don't really work. They just shuffle papers, and they're not risking anything by trying to take your livelihood away from you. They risk nothing. I think that needs to change. I think there needs to be an enlightenment of the public to see that when a public servant takes an oath of office and then they knowingly violate it, that they should be held accountable quickly and swiftly and brutally, right? You want to work for us, then you take an oath to this document. You violate it, you're fired. It's really easy, but they violate their oath of office constantly, and we see this from townships all the way into the federal government. But I think that's something that we've allowed to happen. So I was sad today because this is happening and we're not acting, but we can. We have to allow ourselves to become enlightened about how our government works and who these public servants are. They are our servants. We are the masters as the public. They serve us. But it's sort of switched around. People say things like, well, we should be allowed to. I need everybody to really do this. Download the Bill of Rights to the U.S. Constitution. Download that and read it. It's a page. Download 10 of them. Give them out to your friends. You have the right to free speech. You have the right to own and bear. I'll skip the Third Amendment because we don't put soldiers in homes anymore. But the Fourth Amendment, you have the right to be left alone at your home unless somebody has a warrant, and then they have to swear it out saying that you've broken a law. Fifth Amendment, you have the right to your life. You have the right to your liberty and your property. We have that in this country. In other countries in the world, you have no right to property. They can take it at any time. They can take your liberty at any time if you speak out against your government. That's not the way it is here. All right? So this is government at its lowest level, this township that has bared down on these people. And today at 4 o'clock, there's going to be a hearing at the courthouse in Muskegon to see if they can have their plant sale. Yeah. See if they can have their plant sale, right? All right, and it goes from there. The neighbor has sought to sue them for $75,000 for pain and suffering. And I'm telling you, what I saw there was a clean, quiet, serene, beautiful operation. I didn't see any junk cars. I didn't see any refrigerators sitting on the front porch. I didn't see anything like that. I saw a well-kept, well-manicured operation. But let me tell you something. On the way there, Muskegon, I saw a lot of junk properties. I saw a lot of junk cars sitting out by the road. And I don't see anybody doing anything about that. But you're going to pick on this couple that's working hard to produce food for their neighbors. And they have a lot of neighbors too. And this is the beauty of this. And when you're feeding people, when you're actually selling chickens and milk and stuff like that to moms that are feeding it to their kids because they can't trust the stuff out of the store, those moms are like mother bears. So I'm not thinking that we need to mob that courtroom today. I'm not thinking that we need to do it because that's going to happen anyway. But it's just a hearing for this injunction. And at this point, we don't think the judge is going to he's going to do it. It just doesn't make sense. But the next thing is they've been sued by the township. So I can tell you, I was sued, and you have to respond, right, with a lawyer. That means you got to have $5,000 to retain a lawyer. And then it's going to be $150 an hour for every hour after that. You need to talk to that lawyer and try to find one that's up to speed on farming issues. Luckily, I mean, this was a blessing that dropped out of the sky. Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund, which helped us out a lot during our time with the state of Michigan. We called them yesterday, and they had a lawyer there yesterday afternoon. Now, this girl was told, I'll help you with the timeline a little bit. It was Thursday. She calls me again, and she said, I was just summoned by the court, and they said I have 10 minutes to get to the courthouse. What it was really was the lawyers, the one from the township and the one from the neighbor, called her on her cell phone and said, we're at the courthouse. Hope you can join us. And they dragged her into the court, made her sit for 2 hours, and then brought her before the judge and tried to pressure this judge into this injunction and then shutting down her operation. Right? And this is at the behest of the township. Right? The township, who was supposed to protect the citizenry, is actually piling on with a disgruntled neighbor that has a lot of money and can throw it at a lawyer. There are good lawyers, there are bad lawyers, but Farm to Consumer was right there with a lawyer that helped us kind of pull the whole thing apart and see where we stood as far as Right to Farm Act. And when I left there last night, like 10 o'clock, we were feeling like, oh, okay, they're going to be able to keep their livelihood. They may shut down their plant sale Saturday, which is a tragedy. I mean, it's not going to break the farm, but it may happen. But the next hurdle is going to be they have to defend themselves. So here's what I would like if people want to help here. Okay, Farm to Consumer is just this accumulation of dollars and memberships. Costs you $125 a year to join. And that money goes into a fund. And then there are lawyers that are sitting. They have their regular gigs, but they are sitting and they're waiting for an incident like this to happen. See, what the adversary did, the township did in this case, they made this happen in like 3 days. And here's these young people that don't have a pile of money. They don't have a lawyer retained. They've never been to court in their lives. And their livelihood hangs in the balance. If it were not for a group of experienced people around them, they would be selling animals today. They would have to sell their livestock off. What a tragedy. What a tragedy when you see some of the grunge that goes on that gets a pass, and here's some hard-working people that are just trying to farm. Yeah, it was tough for me to deal with that. It was really tough for me to do. So what I probably need people to do is, if you do farm and you hear this, consider joining up with Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund, and please share this video. Stay tuned, because we may need to mob their phones there at the courthouse or at the township. We may need to demand the resignation of this township official. I think that would be fitting. I mean, she had absolutely no sympathy for these young people, but she wants her paycheck, I'm sure, Well, what if she got a taste of her own medicine? Like if her job was hanging in the balance and her kids had to go to a different school and she had to find a different house to live in because we took her job away. How would that be, The problem really is at the lowest levels Government does not fear the people. I think that needs to change. Now, I'm going to reach a lot of people with this, and I don't mind if you guys share this, but I think the response to this has to be overwhelming. So the message goes out that I wouldn't fool around with the farmers and their friends. Don't mess with these people's food. Don't do it. And they won't. And then farming, the way we farm, can flourish. Why shouldn't it? You know, what's wrong with it? What's wrong with growing food? I know some people have a problem with it. Tough. I have a problem with some of the junk heaps that I have to drive past. That's life. But farming is our right, and we will continue to farm. And make no mistake, the cadre of people that we have working on this are good, and they are ominous. The group that I saw come together yesterday, they're old hands, and they came together. It was all hands on deck, and my phone was blowing up. Me, I just needed to be there, and then I need to communicate this with you and keep you updated as to what's going on. If there's a need for another video that is not to say everything's okay, I hope that's the route we go. If there's a need, we will communicate with you. Okay, here's the times that we need to be at the courthouse. When my thing was going on, we had people in the courthouse from 13 different states. Do you realize the pressure that puts on the system? That everybody's watching what you're going to do, because they were prepared to rob us blind right out in the open, and the judge was going to say okay. Why? Because he could, and you know, if we cause a ruckus, they'd have us arrested and thrown out because they can. But when you have 300 people there and they're angry, they're outnumbered. They're outnumbered, and they're outthought. They're outgunned, basically. And I want to bring firearms into this. I'm not. I'm just using it as an analogy. So let's come together on this one. Let's be thinking about this. I don't know what we need to do at this point. I'll keep you updated. I'll come back when I know something. Right now, it looks really positive that they're going to be able to continue. And when I do come back, maybe I'll be telling you that you need to look these people up and do some business with them, because that's what it takes. That's what it takes. Their sale, we don't know what's going to happen this weekend. We don't know. The name of the farm, by the way, is Hidden Creek Farm. You can find them on Facebook. And I would go there and give them a word of encouragement. Let them know we're out here. And let them know we're nothing to trifle with. We are not anything to fool with for these weenies at the township level. Okay, this is Mark from Baker's Green Acres. Remember, anyone can farm.